So today, we're going to talk about team building a little bit. It was interesting when the idea was posed. We both were like, yeah, team building is a great thing to talk about. Neither one of us, we weren't thinking about the same thing. We were talking about team building. So Jason was thinking about actually, in a general sense, what are we looking for to putting together a team? Where do you start? That sort of thing. And I think that's an even better idea than I had. So I'm going to let you start with that and kind of roll us into this a little bit. So
yeah, Cam took the lead on kind of branching out from being a sub for a lot of divisions of softball, and along with a couple other individuals, spearheaded putting together a brand new team to play City League here in San Francisco. So team building is something that's been at the forefront of our minds for the last month or so, as to kind of how do we appropriately put together a team that is, enough people to show up and play on a weekly basis, but B, ideally you want to be competitive and, win some softball games.
that's the idea.
We've talked a lot about, some here and some just offline, about how important defense is in softball. And so I think our agreement is that it's kind of important, but you need to score more runs than you stop
Yes.
to be able to win. So I think it'd just be logical that we start by talking about lineup construction and really how do we put a competitive lineup together that allows you to be successful and score runs.
Agreed.
Do you have in mind a specific number of runs that you would think that your lineup needs to, day in and day out or week in and week out, need to put up to be successful?
I mean, we talked about this a little bit before on a previous podcast, that 20 is a magic number. And so if I had, which I have a lot of stats for a lot of people, but I don't have comprehensive stats. If I could have the stats where I can put 10 or 12 or however many we're going to bat in a lineup, and it's going to add up to 20 in 7 innings, I'll take that team to war every day. Like that's I don't know if that's realistic, to be honest with you, but I think chasing 20 runs is average. 21's average would be the way to go. Now, I think we all know average is average, and some days some days you score 4 runs in a playoff game, and some days you score 31. So there's variance from game to game, but I think, I think 20 is a goal.
And to clarify, you're using that runs created metric when you're doing that calculation?
Yeah, usually. And again, we've played around with that metric, and I think it's useful. And in theory, I think it's useful for softball, but jury might still be out on whether it actually is.
We'll let Cam continue to accrue stats for the remainder of the year, and we'll circle back and tell you how effective baseball statistics are in slow pitch softball.
Some of them
the
really
merits
work.
of how to use them and when not to use them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we also came up with this discussion because our Sunday team over the summer was kind of a group of people that hadn't played together often enough. Mm-hmm. And so we had individual metrics, and we tried to put together a lineup that was the best lineup for the team based on kind of some thoughts that we had heard listening to other people talk. And I think we tested some things out that worked. I think we tested some things out that didn't work, and we can kind of get into those. But I think the thing that we found most effective was that at least the first 2 guys in your lineup need to be flat out the highest on-base percentage
100%.
Guys, full stop.
And then just put the faster guy first.
Don't create traffic.
Ideally, they're both pretty fast, and it doesn't make that big a difference. But you certainly don't want your number 2 guy catching your number 1 guy on the base path. So
start with that. Let's say you have a guy that gets on base at an 800 clip.
Yep.
But he drags a trailer when he rounds the bases. And
How
you have
heavy
a
is that
guy
trailer?
and you have a guy that hits, say, 100 points below OBP, so a 700 OBP guy,
Yeah.
but he could blaze.
I'm putting him first.
You're putting the Blazer first, or you're putting the 800
I'm putting
guy
the Blazer
first?
first.
Okay.
So I'll tell you why. My general strategy with my top handful, usually I think about the top 3 batters, is that I want to take my first, well, for teams that we've done recently, I have thought about the 3 and 4 batter, and that's usually you, because Jason, if nobody knows, Jason gets on base about 800 plus, and he hits more doubles than he hits singles. So my thought is, and he's blazing fast, my thought is if I can, okay, for an example, let's say number 1 batter and number 2 batter are both 700 hitters or 700 on base, right? Basically, I have I can't remember how you do the exact math on that, but I basically,
you multiply them together, right?
I think it is
50 chance that you're gonna have both guys on base.
Right. But I'm thinking the chances of me having one of them on is almost guaranteed, and the chance of me having 2 of them on is really good. So now if I've got 2 guys on base and Jason hits a double like he does, those 2 guys score. That's the way I think about it. And then I kind of add on my 4 and 5 after that as far as guys that are going to hit those in. So again, if those 2 guys get on and maybe they walk Jason, now I've got 3 guys on. So that's what I'm thinking about is how many base runners can I get up or get on base for my 3, 4, and 5 hitter. So
right. If I'm doing my math correctly, you multiply the fractions together, and please feel free to gas me in the comments, but 7 of 10 by 7 of 10 would be 49 out of 100. So there's a 49% chance that both guys are on base.
Both guys are on base.
And the chance of having neither on base is 9%.
Yeah.
So if you back into that, there's a 91% chance that one guy is on base.
Right. And again, if somebody's hitting a double, I don't care how slow or fast that guy is that was on first base, he better score. You know, like if the hitter gets to second, you've got a head start as a runner. So that's what I'm thinking is the chances of me having 2 guys on is about 500. The chance of having 1 guy on is over 90. Somebody's scoring by the time my 3rd batter finishes it as his at bat. That's what I'm thinking. Get on the board early and often. So, so to go back to the 1 guy's 700 and blazes and 1 guy's 800 and is kind of slow or average or something. To me, 700 is a great place to be. Like I don't care. That doesn't bother me. If my leadoff guy is over 700, I don't really care how far over 700 he is. I'm glad that he's more over 700, but
of course.
But you know, for me, at least, and again, this is no science to this. This is just kind of my gut feeling, is that being on base 600 or better is kind of, I don't want to say the Mendoza line. It's not the Mendoza line of softball.
No, gosh,
because. No. That's the Mendoza line is like, should you even be playing here? But it's the, I don't know if there's a line in baseball of if you're over this, you're secure in your place. So I think every batter on the team should be 600 or try to be 600 or better. So I want my 10th guy, I want my 12th guy to be able to be on base 600. But once you get to 700, that's a super reliable on-base guy. And so, again, for me, because everything to me is, I love sabermetrics ideas. I love the Bill James ideas. Once you're at 70% on base, that's a high enough percentage that I always want you up first. And if I've got guys if I've got a whole team of guys over 700, I don't care anymore. I don't care.
That's a terribly awesome problem to have.
I know, and that's what I mean. Like, if every guy was over 700 on base, I don't think the lineup order would matter anymore, honestly.
So let's say you have. So where does slugging percentage come in? Because one of the things you talk about is, having multiple runners on base and having somebody that's going to be able to compound those runs by finding gaps. So, I would say that not every 800 OBP is made equal.
Right.
In the sense that you could have a 800 OBP guy, but 50% of that could be walks and the other 50% is singles.
Yeah.
You could have an 800 OBP guy whose slugging percentage is, close to 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
And
those two are very different, even though the key metric that we'll continue to emphasize is having a great OBP.
Yes.
There is 2 completely different OBPs when it comes to weighing in the next stat,
Yes.
which is that slugging percentage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I go back and forth on this because sometimes sometimes I just tell myself on base plus slugging is the ultimate stat. You don't need to look any further. But then again, you look at your guy that's, if he's a 700 batter and he only hits singles, his on base plus slugging is 1400. That's decent. It's not super high, but that's decent. And I don't know if that gives inaccurate information or it doesn't directly correlate to extra base hits. It doesn't, obviously, and it doesn't necessarily correlate to knocking a runner in unless they're on third. Because if you hit a single, if you're you could make your living hitting singles that go 10 feet over the infield in front of the outfielders, and your guy on second would never have enough time to get home. But if you have a guy that hits a bunch of doubles, you're going to have a lot more people scoring on that. So
yeah,
it's hard to say, but I generally like, for somebody that I would consider a power type hitter, I almost think that your slugging needs to be, maybe 1,000's a little too much as a floor, but I almost want to say 1,000. You want to have a slugging of 1,000. That's not crazy, especially if you're looking at a power hitter that's going to be in the top half of your lineup. That power hitter should also be hitting, or should be on base over 600. So you're looking at a minimum of on base plus slugging 1,600. In a perfect world, you're looking at more 1,800 to 2,000. Now, if anybody doesn't know on base plus slugging, it's exactly what it sounds like. Take your on base percentage, add your slugging percentage. Slugging being basically taking your total bases. So you get 1 for a single, 2 for a double, 3 for a triple, 4 for a home run, and then dividing that by at bats instead of batting average where it's just total hits. So you actually take the value of those hits and divide it. Gives you a bigger number, but it lets you know about power hitting or more powerful hitting.
So would a layman's term definition of slugging percentage be the number of bases you get each time you go to the plate?
Yeah. So it would be looking at the percentage of number of bases basically. So
if you have a 2,000 slugging percentage, you're essentially going to get a double on average every time.
Yes. Every time you go to bat, not every time you hit.
Yes.
Every time you go to bat.
Plate appearance and batting in an at bat. Yes. Correct.
Yes. So that's a pretty good number to have. That's a pretty good number to have. And I think, again, I don't care what my first and second batter's slugging is. Don't care. Doesn't matter, really. If it's above their average, great. If it's not, I don't care. Once I start getting into 3, 4, 5, that's when I want to start seeing a combination of on base and slugging. Usually once you get to that 4 and 5 batter, the slugging, so if you've got two graphs of on base and slugging, if your on base is here for your early guys, when you get to 4 and 5, your on base is down here, but your slugging has gone up. So you're going to sacrifice some on base usually, unless you just got a team of all-stars, which if you do, power to you. You probably listen to the wrong podcast. We don't know. We don't
We're
have
happy
advice
to join
for you.
too. Let us know what.
Yeah, let us know where you play. We'll happily pay dues for the league fees.
We'll travel for good softball.
That's right. But yeah, so I think once you get to that 4 and 5 slot, I still want to see a guy that's on base 600, 650 at least.
Okay.
And I want to see at least 1,000 slugging, preferably more like 1,200. So you're starting to push that 2,000 on base plus slugging. So that's what I generally am looking for.
So we've covered the top 4 or 5 spots in the lineup, and I think
I did
in
kinda skip
general
those, didn't I?
people push those top 5 spots as their best hitters, right?
Yep.
But I think that you may find the bottom half of the lineup is much more impactful
Yeah.
on the outcome of a game than the top half.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be interested to hear from you kind of what your thoughts are on building that bottom half of the lineup,
Yeah.
because you really need to be able to not have any dead spots
Yeah.
to ensure that you just keep things moving along. We've seen too many times where you put your top 5 guys batting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the next inning when
Yeah.
8, 9, 10 come up, they go 1, 2, 3, and you've got a 0, and you're chasing again. So talk to me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, it's so on the surface, the strategy is you want your best hitters early, not only because you want to start fast, but if you finish the game and you don't go through your lineup an entire extra time, you want those guys getting extra at-bats. I should say those guys and girls. We don't do co-ed very much, but co-ed, this exists too. So you want those players getting that extra at-bat. That's your best chance. But like you said, if you toss everybody that has the good numbers up front and then you don't have any numbers in the back end, it really becomes a problem, like you said, because then you'll get a 1, 2, 3 inning. And even if you're only batting 10, let's say your first 5 batters are all good, they get on base, whatever, or you get out by the sixth batter, and now you've got 4 guys left at the end of the batting order. 7, 8, 9 go 1, 2, 3, and then you got to start the next inning with the last batter. So if that back half is not getting on, you're gonna have a problem. So I've almost taken to, instead of saying just front load and then get worse as you go as far as getting on base, I almost like to find out who my bottom hitters are, if you truly have one. If you have a team that everybody's on base 600-ish, I'm not too concerned. But if you do have some holes in the lineup, like maybe you've got a guy that's just an outstanding defender, you need him, he's the shortstop, whatever, you got to have him on the team, but he's not the best hitter, I usually try to almost hide that player. So sometimes I will throw that player in 7th, 6th, somewhere around there. So if that player gets an out, then I probably follow that player with somebody that can get on. And so I almost want to stagger those. I almost want to be like good on base, not as good, good on base, not as good. And that way you have a better chance of at least extending through that area. So even if your guys that get out more often do get out, you have a buffer in between.
Sure.
It might be a waste a little bit, I'm not sure, but that's kind of how I've tended to lean when I'm making lineups more recently. And I do really like having a decent on-base guy or girl at the end of the lineup to turn it over. I do like that idea too.
I think there's a lot of value in considering if we'll call you like a peak and a valley team where you've got a couple of really, really highs and then you've got a couple of kind of closer to the 50-50 range.
Yeah.
I think you could make a very good argument to take one of your top 2 hitters and move one of them down and put in one of those 500 percentage people, because even still, a 700 and a 500 OBP is going to give you a 35% chance of having somebody on base. 35% chance that both people are on base, which is still 1 in 3. That's good. And you're very highly likely going to have at least one person on base. Yeah. And that kind of levels things out so you don't compound consecutive outs.
Yeah, and I think... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I just wanted to get to is trying things out. I think one of the things that we've experienced when we've played Meetup is we've played with these individuals who play in a completely stress-free zone.
Yeah.
And we know how good they are in a stress-free environment. And then you step into a league game or a tournament game and you have somebody in a high leverage position in the lineup, like, top 4, and it's just completely different for them. I can think of somebody that we play with frequently that we've tried batting as high as 2, and for them it just doesn't work. But you put them down in the 7 hole, next thing you know, they're a 700 on base percentage guy.
Yeah.
So I highly encourage to try those things out. We track the stats of what position you were in the batting lineup just to see if there are trends that you can kind of get to the bottom of. And, we've been able to be successful with that. It is a lot of work, but if you take it seriously enough and you want to compete at a high level, I think it's valuable information to have to make educated decisions on what people's trends are.
Spreadsheets are your friend. Trust me. Spreadsheets are your friend. They don't take that much to keep. Trust me. They're not that hard. One thing I was thinking of, though, too, along those same lines, and along the lines of what we were talking about a little earlier. So let's say, again, maybe you're thinking, okay, I'm going to take one of my 2 top on base guys, and I think I might move him later just to break up the peaks and valleys. And if you keep stats, you'll know this, but I would almost rather, if I'm going to do that, I will take a guy, maybe his on base is only 550 or something like that. But as an individual, they're a boom or bust type of player. So let's say, kind of like I was talking about myself, where I will have 3 games where I bat 750 and I'll have 1 game where I bat 200 for whatever reason. And then I average out to whatever. So maybe you've got a guy that averages out to 550, but 3 out of 4 games, he bats 3 for 4. And then 1 game he goes 0 for 4. Like maybe that's a good guy that you move up front, and if you catch him on a good day, you got tons of guys on base in the top of the order. If you catch him on that bad day, once every 4 or 5 games, whatever, you still got your other batter up front that's going to get on base in front of your 3, 4, and 5 guys. So I would almost, if you have a player like that, I would almost roll the dice on that and put them closer to the front. That way you can move that other guy that is a constant in that 6th spot, 7th spot to really help roll that lineup through.
Okay, I like that. That makes sense. The boom and bust is frequent enough that it makes sense to stay at the top of the lineup.
Right.
But the bottom of the lineup impact is kind of the unmeasurable in the sense that you can't really put a value on keeping the line moving other than that you are getting the baton back to the top of the lineup more frequently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you would see that throughout the course of a year with the total number of at-bats that your top guys are getting compared to the bottom of the lineup people.
Right. Yeah, it's, again, I know we say that there's no science, but there's really no science, I don't think, behind this. I mean, I'm sure there is, but I don't know how reliable it is. Even if you are fully taking advantage of all the information, I'm not sure there's a right or wrong answer here, other than if you can get your better batters batting well more often, or I mean that's as good as you can do. But you also, it's baseball, it's softball. You can't predict it. You just can't. Like you can have.
Here's
guys
a couple of
amazing,
scenarios, and I'd love to get your take on these scenarios and how it might change your strategy.
I like scenarios. Okay, this is fun.
Scenario 1.
Oh. Okay.
You have an individual that needs a pinch runner.
Yeah.
How do you build your lineup to ensure that you always have a pinch runner for them that doesn't put you in the position where that pinch runner is going to come up in the lineup and create an out?
1, do I have more than one player that needs pinch runner? Or
let's go with that.
Okay, so I have,
because that takes
players.
a lot more manipulation of the lineup.
Or maybe not that need them, but it would be advisable to give to them.
Sure.
So 1, I'm going to prioritize the one that is the least likely to be able to run well on the base. I'm going to prioritize that one as the one I need to take care of first. So usually what I'm going to do, I would probably try to get them maybe something like 5 or 6.
Okay.
And I think if you make that player 5 or 6, the likelihood of the number 1 batter, who's probably your fastest runner, the likelihood of them being off the base path at that point is high. Mm-hmm. And the likelihood of them coming back up to bat even if they ran for that player, the chances of them being off the base path again is pretty high as well. So I think I would probably try to do that. But in reality, most of the time, your top two guys are going to be fast on the faster side. Mm-hmm. So you have that opportunity. Maybe that guy comes up with no outs. Maybe they lead off the inning with no outs or something like that. Maybe you put your number 2 guy instead of your number 1 guy, or your number 3 guy instead of your number, because usually you want to take that chance. But again, if that guy comes up with 2 outs, it probably doesn't matter who you run for him at that point, because if they get on, somebody's going to either get off the bases or get out at that point. So I think I would do that best I could. It's not always easy. And then if you have another one, man, maybe that's one that you bat. That's hard to say, because now the difference between the speed of this second slowest guy and the speed of your middle of the road guys, the gap is smaller. So at that point, maybe he runs for himself sometimes, or maybe it's your 4-batter, 5-batter, 6-batter that's going to run for him, and you bat him at, almost at the end. And if you're batting 12, you got even more time, and it matters less. But I would say bat them close to the next to last slot or the last slot in the lineup. So I think those 2 slow guys might be separated by 2 or 3 spaces in the lineup on the back half of the lineup. But again, I don't know if that's a perfect solution.
Are you considering each individual's OBP when you're placing them in the lineup, or are you talking more in the need of them needing a runner and getting them a faster runner? Like the slowest person batting 6 because you can get a faster guy from the top of the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably... Yeah, I'm probably going to make the better OBP guy. Well, I guess it really depends. Yeah, I guess I was saying that I was gonna kind of lean towards the slowest to be that 6th spot, but I think you're right. I think I might go the best OBP of the 2, because the chances of them getting on and needing the runner are going to be higher. So yeah, I think I would prioritize that if there's a gap between them. And one thing I've noticed. Oh, yes.
Go ahead. Finish that thought.
Oh, I was going to say, one thing I've noticed, though, a lot of times, not all the time, a lot of times when you start creeping up into like the mid to higher tiers of softball, those guys that can't run very well usually can hit very well or get on base very well. Because usually you can't play that high a level with a major flaw like speed without having, major upside on the others. So I feel like your OBP for those guys, once you get up to those higher levels, are going to be pretty good most of the time, or at least on the higher side, since they can't really run.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. So the follow-up question to that is, the scenario is they lead off the inning. Mm-hmm. And let's say that your higher OBP guy is your slowest guy. Okay. He's batting 6th or somewhere in the middle of the lineup. Your other person that requires a runner is going to be 10. In this scenario, you're just batting 10.
Okay.
So your 6 hitters, higher OBP, leads off the inning and gets on base.
Yeah.
You know that you have a slower runner at the bottom of the lineup that would need a runner. You only get one an inning.
Yeah.
Do you take it immediately, or do you hold out?
I think that depends on who's behind the 6th batter. If I've got...
What specifically are you looking at?
If I've got speed behind the 6th batter, then I might take that runner early, especially since it sounds like he is the slower of the 2.
Yes.
And I'm a big proponent. I don't always think about it in the time, like in the moment, but I always think about it afterwards. Is the old, a bird in the hand's better than 2 in the bush. I would rather give the runner to the guy that I know is on base than the guy that might get on base. So
yeah.
Especially if that guy is a, 550, 600 guy, I got a 50-50 shot that he doesn't need a runner. But if my 6th batter is already on base, there's a 100% chance he needs a runner. So I think I would take the opportunity, if it's that guy, If it's my other guy that leads off the inning, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. So we'd have to see.
Yeah, you kind of abide. You mentioned what my strategy is. My strategy is you can't predict a problem that you don't have.
Yes.
And in that case, if you know you have a guy on base,
Yes.
and you know you can give him a runner,
yes.
99 times out of 100, I'm going to give that person a runner because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and
if you kept that guy in, knowing that you have somebody coming up, and then the next person grounds into a double play, you have 2 outs, and that guy may not even come up that inning.
right.
And then you wasted it.
yeah.
So I kind of live, unless you know you have somebody that's like flat out injured in the
Sure.
lineup, and the other person is slow but can run.
Yeah.
I almost take it immediately every time and let the cards fall as they may.
Yeah, I think that's pretty similar to the way I think about it because, okay, let's take it 6th and 10th batter, right? Those are 2 slow guys. 6th guy gets on, leads off the inning. You got no outs. So 7, 8, 9. If those next 3 guys get out, you didn't waste anything. He took the runner. It's great. If 2 guys get on, and then your other guy comes up and he gets on, that's a good problem to have. you know?
Sure.
And I'm not so worried about a slow runner on first if my bases are loaded or if I got somebody on second because they're probably only going station to station most of the time anyway. So I can usually with a guy, unless, again, there's an injury issue, you can usually count on a slow guy being able to go one base. It's when you've got nobody in front of them on first. You want that guy going first to third on a single.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a slow guy there, that's not going to happen. So I'm much more happy not having a runner for a guy with runners in front of him. And again, if that happens, you don't have a runner for that guy, but somebody probably scored already. Good problem to have. I'm not mad about it. So.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think there's so much that you can't evaluate in the ability to take an extra base, especially when it's just, I imagine you have a slow runner on first and there's a ball to the right side and that runner goes first to third and it's a pinch runner. Next thing that happens is the next person comes up and grounds out to a double play. You still scored a run.
Yeah.
If it was the slow runner, you're now at 2 outs and a runner on third, and they may not score on a sac fly. But
Right.
if it didn't happen that way, you're able to get that person to a scoring position of third with 1 out, and even with a double play or a fly ball to the outfield, you're still going to put a run across.
Yeah.
And so it's so hard to quantify that, but I feel like I've seen it bite people so many times
Yeah.
that it's just one of those things where you've kind of learned vicariously through the decisions that you've made and tried to store it in the memory bank not to make those same mistakes again.
Yeah, I think we just super nerded out on scenarios that probably could be easily described or defined as oftentimes teams put that free courtesy runner, they just put too much value on it, and so they're afraid to spend it. You know what I mean? It's like I got $100 bill, but I'm afraid to spend it because what if I need it later? And so I think people look at it and they think it's way more valuable than it is. So they feel like I need to save this. I got to hold on to this currency, when in reality, you should probably use it more like if you went to Vegas and you won $1,000, you don't mind if you spend that $1,000 on more gambling, right? You don't care. You're like, this is free money at this point. If I go home with exactly the same I showed up with, I don't care. I want to have fun. I want to do this. But if you're 1,000 in the hole, then you think about it differently. And I think a lot of people view it as you're 1,000 in the hole from the get-go. And I think they should think about it just playing with house money more often. I think that would be the easiest, most layman's term way of thinking about it, I think. So
See, I've developed a thought.
Okay.
You've got me percolating here. I'm thinking. you have kind of led me down the path to think that you should use that every single inning.
Well,
Why not?
if you don't use, so
Teenage me would say if you don't use it, you lose it.
right. Well, and you do, but in reality, if you could predict the future and you knew exactly who was going to get on base and who was going to get up to bat, you would use it every inning, right? If somebody got on base and I looked at them and said, I've got a faster guy on my roster that can run for them, I'm going to do it every time because I know exactly who's going to come up and I know exactly when the right time to do it is. But we don't know that. And I think, though, again, it goes back to overvaluing it a little bit, that it should be used more often. If at any point you had a slower runner when you could have had a faster runner, that's always a disadvantage. Always. You just don't know when it's going to be.
Sure. I guess
that's the part that's hard.
I think about it. Let's say you have 2 outs.
Yep.
And you have a runner on and you have somebody faster in the dugout.
Yeah.
I would say use it.
Yeah. I mean,
you're creating an advantage in a situation that you didn't have.
Yeah. And
it's not going to hurt you if it doesn't pan out, but you're giving yourself an increased opportunity that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that we've both experienced, and we've never had to have a conversation with somebody where, hey, above average runner, we're going to put an elite runner in place for you.
Yeah.
What we're talking about typically is somebody gets on base and ego comes in and they feel like you're telling them that they're not good enough by giving them a pinch runner, and they take that to heart as it's a personal offense.
Yeah.
When in reality, you need to phrase it or frame it for them as you're helping the team right now.
Yes.
You're literally, by doing this, we're not telling you you're bad. We're telling you you're selflessly helping the team have a better chance to win.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, maybe it's because I'm more on that average level of the spectrum in speed, but the thought that would go through my head if they're like, Cam, we're going to give you a courtesy runner and it's going to be so-and-so. My immediate thought is so-and-so is faster than I am. Okay. But if you get some of those guys that maybe are in the top 75% of speed and you want to put a guy that's 95% of speed, percentile of speed, then that's when it starts. Well, I'm pretty fast. Like, yeah, but are you as fast as Jason? Sure. and again, and I think you gotta play that by ear too. That's the part you can't parse out with stats. Is you got to understand your personalities on your team too. I think, fortunately, the team that has just been put together. Thankfully, I've played with these guys a ton in meetup, so I know the personalities already. Because again, I know that there's no tough personalities on this. I know nobody's gonna get too upset about anything, and if they did, I can literally put a hand on somebody's shoulder and be like, "Yo, man, this is why I did this. We're cool," and they're gonna be cool every time. We don't have any of those personalities on this team, at least not as far as I know. maybe
we'll find out, right?
Maybe it'll come out. But I've played with you, and I have both played with these guys for a long time. Most of them for years at this point. Some of the newer guys to the thing we've played with for 6-8 months, but again, have played plenty of games in that time to know, who you're dealing with. But if you do have a guy on the team that's got an ego issue or an attitude issue, you might have to consider that. Well, okay, maybe we won't run for him because if we run for him in the second inning, he's going to be useless for the next 5 innings. So yeah, it is something to consider. I guess we haven't
taken into account any of the personality considerations.
I like to think it doesn't matter, but it does.
Specific attributes in you. Yeah, this is Madden right here.
Yeah, if you're playing Madden with slow pitch softball, it's real easy.
Oh gosh. Do you think anybody would buy a slow pitch softball video game?
Probably not.
You said that very quickly, and then you're like, wait a sec.
I probably
people are listening to a slow pitch softball podcast.
Yes.
So,
but okay, we're gonna go on a tangent here. So I think about what video games I play, sports video games. It's going to be Madden football. Sometimes I've played the show or other baseball games, things like that. The big draw for that, or one of the big draws for that, is that I can't actually hit a fastball that goes 97. I can't do it, you know? Or I can't run a 4.6 40 as an offensive lineman because I'm not anywhere close to strong enough to doing any of that. So I play a video game. Literally anybody can play slow pitch softball. Anybody. Granted, you got to have a little bit of skill, but there are low levels of absolutely newbies. I feel like the draw is not going to be there.
But think about like those U-Trip, world tournaments where you've got guys like Brett Helmer hitting the ball 450 feet.
Sure.
And I mean, some people idolize that. Like,
yeah, but
maybe it's a niche market.
I think it would be. I think it would not. It would not garner attention from companies from the size of a company that it would take to make a video game like that. If some
Electronic Arts hasn't made a baseball game in a long time, maybe they need to dabble in something different.
Well, they're not allowed to. That's the problem. So, MLB The Show was owned by whoever owned them, and they
Do you really think anybody owns the rights to slow pitch softball video games?
No. But do you think Electronic Arts is going to be like, you know what we need? Slow pitch softball. That's what we need.
I've heard dumber ideas.
Okay.
I have probably come up with dumber ideas in the last
That's fair.
hour.
That's fair. But you weren't saying, man, I got this dumb idea. Who wants to spend $10 million on it and then hope that we can sell it to people on their PS5?
Yeah, I'm more of an Xbox platform person.
Well,
so
whatever.
It's
a lot easier to have dumb ideas when you're not pinning $10 million to them.
No, maybe we just need to go with the backyard brand of sports.
Yeah.
That was always my jam. Backyard baseball.
Yeah.
The jam.
Yeah. I still play, actually. Still on a tangent. If anybody's ever wants to play a baseball game that is not licensed by the MLB, but is super fun, Super Mega Baseball. Go find Super Mega Baseball. It's kind of a little bit cheesy and cartoony on purpose, but it's super funny. They have all kinds of ridiculous things, but it's a legitimately difficult and challenging baseball game. Play it. Okay. Super Mega Baseball 3. You can get it on Steam. I play it all the time. Love it.
I think the last baseball game I played was actually NCAA baseball. That just ages
know
how
they
long
made those. Holy cow!
There's something about the ping of that steel bat that just is second to nothing, man.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Well, we digress. That's our video game rant for for baseball.
So the other scenario, now that we're back on topic.
We're back on topic.
The other scenario, do you change your lineup depending on what the applicable home run rule is for the game, tournament, whatever that you're in? An example would be you get one home run per inning, which happened in a USSSA tournament that I played in about a month ago, versus you get one home run the whole day. Yeah. Doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah. I like the one per inning. One per inning's fine with me. It's the one per game that's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough. It depends on who you got on the team. But in most cases, I don't know if this is actually true. This is what I like to believe. In most cases, if you have players that can hit home runs on a somewhat consistent basis, most of the time those players can not hit home runs purposefully on a somewhat consistent basis. There's always the chance that there's an accident. But if that person is actually thinking about trying to win games, then I feel like you can adjust your swing. Again, I'm not this amazing power hitter by any means, but I have some power. And we ran into that situation when we played that tournament in, where were we at? It's Palm Springs back in April, where we had used our home runs. I came up to bat and I knew, because I'd hit 2 or 3 that day already in different games, obviously. But I was legitimately afraid because I was just hitting the ball well that day that I was going to take one out. And I adjusted the way I approached my at bat, and I just tomahawked that thing. So, I mean, it probably was 100 miles an hour off the bat, but it went straight at the ankles of the third baseman, So it was, I would like to think that, again, if somebody's really locked in, that your home run hitter should be able to convert their home runs to singles and doubles. Usually your home run hitters aren't getting a lot of triples because usually your home run hitters aren't your fastest guys. Unless you have no fences like here in San Francisco, and then who the heck knows? A lot of triples are just things that should have been home runs, but we're not fast enough to get all the way around. That's why I have a lot of triples.
In that category?
Absolutely. I'm absolutely in there. I have all these triples in our meetup group, and I look at these and think 75% of those probably should have been home runs if I was a faster hitter. Triples leader because he's too slow to get home runs.
There you go. Okay, so based on what I'm hearing, you're saying very little, if no consideration, really comes into your lineup structure because of a unique rule based on home runs.
And yeah, probably not, unless it goes the other way where they say, okay, there's a designated home run hitter. Because we've played in those where they say, okay, you only get one home run per game, except one person on your team can wear a wristband, and if they have the wristband, they can hit as many home runs as they want. Okay. Now, if I've got a guy that's just, maybe he's a 500 batter, but every other time he gets a hit, he hits a home run. Like he gets a home run 1 out of 5 at bats. Mm-hmm. I'm going to move that guy up to 4th and just cross my fingers, So I think that's really the only time I would do it is when the governor's taken off, when you take the top off of it. I think I might make some considerations if you have a player like that, but I'm not sure I would do it for limited home runs. And I think maybe that's just because we play in so many, almost all the scenarios we play in, league, tournament, all that. There's almost always a limit. So I think most people are used to having it. And I would assume most of the time have adjusted to be able to play within those bounds. I know it doesn't always happen, but in my perfect world, I like to think that that's true.
It's a wonderful place.
It's a great place. It's a wonderful place to live and play softball.
Every pitch is a cookie.
Every single one. And I know when to not hit it out. I know when you barrel it to the fence instead of barrel it over the fence.
Yeah, for you, it would be a world where left center field is just a green monster.
Oh, love it, man! If I could play in the equivalent of Fenway Park, that would be amazing. We got to play one of the big league dreams we played at. We played a game or 2 games. We played at the Fenway Park. And the green monster is sitting out there at 265, 270. And of course, it's whatever it is, 30 feet tall, 35 feet tall, which is fine. I can still hit it over it if I need to, but I can also just hit ropes that are going to knock off that wall at 270 at about 25 feet and just get doubles all day long. I would love it. Absolutely would love it. We need to build.
You can live off of that.
I'm fine with it. I wish I could hit more doubles. That would just make my life easier.
Doubles are huge. Doubles are
massive. Doubles. That's another thing we'll talk about at some point. I would argue doubles are the most important as far as extra base hits. The most important.
Wow. Hot take.
Doubles.
Better than home runs.
Better than trying to hit home runs. How about that?
Okay.
If you can hit one every 5 at bats, then hit them. But most of us cannot. So
yes.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on lineup construction?
Not really. I think it's just if you've got a team and you're stuck with it, you got to build based on that. And then again, at the end of the season, look at what you got, and if you're really trying to compete, you got to find those guys that just can't get on base consistently, and you got to try to get somebody else in there. You got to shoot for 600 on base up and down that lineup at some point. So
yeah, I think the only other thing I would add is just the consistency of a lineup, like find something and then kind of like stick with it.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value in each person in the lineup having confidence in what the next person's going to do.
Yep.
You know, and an example would be me being a 3-hitter and you being a 4-hitter.
Yep. I never had to lead off an inning ever.
I may not find a lot of pitches to hit. Just there's an allure of a 3-hitter.
Yeah.
Being a good hitter, so you may not get too many hits for pitches that are going to be great.
Right.
You know, they might nibble. And having the confidence in the people behind you and knowing what they're capable of really allows you to be more aggressive in certain areas of your game and be a little bit more selective because you have the confidence in the people behind you to pick you up if you walk or if you get out, you know? And I think there's an unspoken value to that too, is just having, you know, a chemistry across the lineup.
Yeah, and I think in the other way around too, because again, we've batted 3-4 a lot, I think, in the last year. And even if you walk in front of me, I basically always know if I just hit a single with some amount of velocity, he's getting to third. So I know, I almost can guarantee that if I hit the ball out of the infield, the force at third is going to be off because he's going to go from second he's going to make it from first to third. So you're going to break that up and there's going to be an open base in front of me. So I can almost always guarantee that he's getting to third base on a single if he started on first. So it's nice to know that too. And again, like I said, I think I let off one inning in like however many games because he just gets on. And if he doesn't get on, the chances of him being the third out, super low. So it's nice to not lead off. It's nice to not lead off an inning. I don't want to lead off an inning.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing I don't enjoy either. Is I don't enjoy leading off, especially running from the outfield and then getting hustled up to the plate. You're kind of like catching your breath, taking that first pitch.
Yeah,
not fun.
Yeah, I did have to triage bat leadoff at a tournament a while back, which I'm not really leadoff hitter, but it was an interesting experience. I embraced it, but it was weird.
Yeah, it's different for sure.
Yeah. You do what you got to do, right? That's part of being a good teammate too, is they're like, Cam, we need you to do something crazy. All right, put me in, coach. You know, just don't ask me to pitch and we'll be good.
Yeah, right.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants it.
No, thanks.
This is for you, not for me. Trust me, you don't want me pitching.
It's for the best of the team that I sit this one out.
Absolutely. I'm better on the bench. I'm better on the bench than pitching. So thank you for watching, everyone. We really appreciate it. Depending on what platform you're watching us on, like, subscribe, leave us a comment. Anything you can do to let us know that you like what we're doing here. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.